I'm still fascinated by the idea that we're supposed to accept that Shabana Mahmood is an English woman, given how it's not like she doesn't have a long public history, and there are lots of records of her just telling us all about herself. And so now, when the idea of English identity has become salient in politics, and they realise that being on the outside of this will mark you as an outsider and someone who is not part of the nation, they decide, oh no, I'm a patriot. I'm just as English as you are. And it's like, sorry, I just don't believe you. I just don't believe this. I mean, not only can I look at you and notice your name is Shabana Mahmood, which is a Pakistani name, and you look like a Pakistani woman, and your parents are Pakistani from Pakistan, but this seems to have informed all of your life up until this point. I mean, we can go back to a 2011 interview for New Statesman here with Shabana Mahmood, and she talks about how was it growing up, what's going on, what about her feelings about all of this. And she says, in the Asian community, the extended family networks are really strong. And she talks about her own extended family in the Asian community. So, okay, but that's not English. And so you're saying here that you're not English. In the South Asian community, there's the religious binding. But beyond that, the people consider themselves almost relatives when they hail from the same part of the same region of Pakistan or India or Kashmir. Okay, I accept that that's true, and I believe you, that you do have very strong, tightly knit communities that hail from the same parts of Pakistan, India or Kashmir, and you designate yourself as the South Asian community, meaning you're not English. I don't know how else I'm supposed to take this. Anyway, this again carries on. Like she says, when she decided to go into politics, did she get opposition from your wider community? The community elders got behind me. Do we have community elders in the English community? Is that something that we have had? Anyway, again, you can just see through all of this. My dad arrived in this country as a teenager with his family in the 1960s. So your dad wasn't English. So neither was your mum. And so you're not English. There was a strong belief in social justice because we found opportunities in this country that had not been available to us in the village that we hail from in Kashmir and then Pakistan. Well, I'm so glad that we were a new frontier for your family to explore and make money out of. But the point being is she recognizes that she hails from a village in Kashmir in Pakistan. Like, I'm not going to pretend that this is an English person. She's not saying that she is English. She is literally saying, I am South Asian, and therefore, I mean, she may have grown up in Birmingham. She didn't actually live there her whole life. She spent 5 years in Saudi Arabia, but like, whatever, it doesn't really matter. For the majority of her life, she grew up in Birmingham. Sure, I'm not saying that they didn't, but Birmingham is a minority English city at this point. In fact, Birmingham has lots of different foreign colonies in it. And she says, unsurprisingly, for someone who is both Asian and Muslim, I have suffered racism and Islamophobia. Right, but if you were English, you wouldn't have suffered racism from the English community. So you accept that you are not English. This is a statement to say, I am not English because I am Asian and Muslim. And so I've suffered racism and Islamophobia. Okay, whatever. And this, just wherever it's reported, is something they recognise. Oh, she's Pakistani and she's been made the UK's Home Secretary. And she even tells us in, again, old interviews now about what it's like receiving flack from within her own community by being a politician who is also a woman.
Nothing that's ever affected me in any way, shape or form in terms of overt racism. I don't know what gets said behind my back, obviously. But I did face a little, from a very, very, very small minority, a little bit of negativity from within my own community. So people, my background, my religion, my race, who were unused to the idea of a woman, being at the front of a room, who were unused to the idea of a woman being a representative. And trying to change that is a challenge because...
She'll go on, but the point being, my religion, my background, my race, well, that's not English then, right? There weren't English men who were like, a woman in politics? Not on my watch. Obviously, that didn't happen, right? These were Muslim Asian men who, for some reason, were allowed to live in Birmingham, who were like, I can't do an accent, but who were arguing that actually a woman in politics is not a correct thing because they are not from this country. Again, I'm sorry, I just can't bring myself to believe she is just as English as me, and I don't see why I should have to, and in fact it seems kind of ridiculous, and no one else does. Arab News, Pakistan origin, Shabana Mahmood is the UK's first woman Lord Chancellor. Yeah, I bet. She is. Like, they're not like, oh look, an English woman has been made Lord Chancellor in Britain. That would be unsurprising, I suppose, or maybe Labour would be like, oh look, the first woman or something, I don't know. But like, this is not something that outsiders perceive about her, and up until right now, this is not something she even perceived about herself. So I'm sorry, why would I accept this? Do you think I'm fucking stupid? Are we supposed to just pretend, oh, for the sake of unity, every foreigner who steps foot on British soil is just as British? So does that mean that actually the British never invaded India and took over India? There was no British colonial rule because they stepped on Indian soil and became just as Indian as anyone else. Rudyard Kipling, India's greatest poet. No, and everyone knows that's not the case. And yet they're playing with this stupid fiction as if we're going to be persuaded by it. And I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. Because when she's like, oh yeah, Islam is basically everything I do, I'm just like, well, that's not very English, actually, is it?
Islam, my own religion, like a lot of practicing Muslims, my faith is the most important thing in my life. It is the absolute driver of everything that I do. I feel a very strong calling of my own conscience, and my conscience calls me to God. That is how.
I mean, unlike most English people who are not Muslims and don't feel a strong calling towards Islam and don't use Islam as the frame through which they approach the entire world, again, just feels like this might be a South Asian thing. Like this isn't actually an English thing. And she's obviously campaigned in the past for foreign and Muslim issues. I mean, during the pandemic, she was writing to the foreign secretary over the red list for Pakistan and Bangladesh because they were like, okay, we'll put them on the red list so they can't travel here. She was like, oh, that's my countrymen. Why can't they come here? It's like, well, because they've got COVID, and also, why would we want them here? But just one thing over many. And then there's the amount of, I mean, over the years, she's attended loads and loads of anti-Israel and pro-Palestine demonstrations. She's dressed in this way, which is obviously a very non-English way. She has made herself deliberately separate and different to the English community. And yet, I'm supposed to believe that this is just normal. This is what the English are like. And I'm sorry, I just don't. I just don't believe it. She can't just, in the time when colonizing Britain, colonizing England in particular, has actually kicked up a great well of feeling in the English, and they've said, no, we've had enough on this. You can't then go, well, actually, let me put that on as a skin suit. Don't worry about all of these pictures of me as a Muslim woman, dressed as a South Asian woman. Don't worry about me talking about my South Asian community and the village that we came from. Don't worry about me talking and doing about all these things and campaigning for South Asian issues. Don't worry about all of those things. I'm just as English as you. And the answer is just no. You are absolutely not. And this, again, Lewis Goodall was on the hook for this because it was like, okay, Lewis, fucking prove it. This is not the case. She is literally not English. In 100 years' time or 500 years' time, when archaeologists are digging up the ruins of this country and they find Shabana Mahmood's skeleton and they do tests on it and they're like, my God, there's a Pakistani woman here. My goodness, how did she get here? What a fascinating story she must have had. They will literally not see her as English because she is not one of us. And it's that simple. And she has always demonstrated that she is not one of us. And she said, loyal to Pakistan for anything else. Well, I mean, yeah, it seems that way. I mean, why would she care if she was English? The Pakistanis aren't allowed to come to this country. Why would she care? I mean, she would just surely be like, yeah, my English community, don't like women politicians, but, my English community, Muslim, obviously, like the average English community, my Muslim community really hate Israel and are obsessed with Palestine, like every English community. My English community are really just a normal part of my life. And I live like an English woman in England, doing English things. And Lewis Goodall would have us believe that that's not the case, that this is the case. And I'm sorry, it's just ridiculous. It is just so ridiculous that we are being asked to accept that the colonizers of this country are just as English as I don't. I just do not. These people are not English. It is that simple. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to be browbeaten into it. I'm not going to be guilt-tripped into it. There's nothing liberal Lewis Goodall can say to persuade me against the reality of the situation, especially given how voluminous her history talking about this, saying, yeah, I am Asian and Muslim. Right, so you're not English. And, that's not even a moral judgment. I'm not saying that it's bad to not be English. I'm just saying it is a fact that she is not English. But she is from Birmingham, so she comes from an Asian colony in Birmingham. And the thing is, you can see why they're so against us recognizing what these people have said in their own words this whole time. Because if we do come to recognize it, then we will understand that the English, being the minorities in their own largest cities, is a form of colonization. And actually, what has been done to us against our will is immoral. And they're worried, and I really mean this, they're deeply worried, that a widespread decolonization movement of England by the English will begin, and these people will be sent back to their ancestral homelands.